And today I'm zooming across to Lagos, where I find Dr. Belinda Nwosu in the Lagos Business School. Belinda, how are you?
Very well, Neil. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it, and I would love to see you in person, but we do that definitely next time. Belinda, you're the faculty member or a faculty member in the business school for organizational behavior and HR. Tell us a little bit about what the school does and what you in particular do in the school.
The Lagos Business School is part of the Pan-Atlantic University here in Lagos, Nigeria. I work in the organizational behavior HRM department, where I focus on leadership training. Our core focus here at the business school is management education for the continent. It's an ethical, cutting-edge position, able to influence business owners in a way that develops them not just for their own regions, but for the continent as a whole. That's what we focus on. I also am very interested and lots of work that I do in the hospitality and tourism sector, and it all comes together for every sector across the continent in an ethical manner.
I'm glad how you framed that because hospitality is obviously our game. That's what we do, and that's where we connected a few months ago. Quickly, a look back in a way. The pandemic that I don't think have quite behind us, but we all like to move on and would like to carry on with life and kind of put it behind us. And when we look back over the last couple of years, your two major centers, the capital Abuja, but also Lagos, have managed to stay above water as far as occupancies were concerned, ADR was concerned. ADR, in fact, has risen above the 2019 levels already, whereby many other destinations worldwide are still trying to recover. What do you subscribe that to? Why is Lagos, why is Abuja, doing better than many other African but also international destinations?
That was really something that we questioned, because prior to the pandemic, there was always this emphasis that we're not going to get enough international travelers coming into the country, and therefore the industry is going to implode, all right? And we discovered that that didn't happen. One thing I would attribute that to is the domestic market. I don't think in the past we had given it enough attention, right? And we've come to see with a robust, dynamic domestic market, we're able to keep up with the numbers, right? This is a turning point for many practitioners, many hotel owners and operators, that there is a market that can be taken advantage of, regardless of whether international travel picks up again or not. And also the sector of visiting friends and family, that's massive. We saw that happening over Christmas as well with the people in the diaspora holidays, and that made a big impact on operators. And now we're beginning to understand the market and see how to take better care of what we already have.
And you think that will continue into the future, even though once international travel, because when you go into international airlines, you always find a Nigerian on the plane, so you travel, you and your people travel a lot, and going back and forth and whatever. So with that normalizing, you find that, or you feel that the domestic market will remain as strong?
I think this is the beginning of something we never even envisaged, that the domestic market would actually compete with the international market. So I don't see it regressing in any way. I think it'll grow stronger, but at the same time, the international market will augment what we already have. And that will kind of force some operators to up their game in terms of service quality, because now there's more competition at home that does not depend on the international traveler. I see with more brands coming into the market, probably they will find that their markets as well are beginning shaped around the domestic market. It's an exciting time, because this is not anything anybody could have foreseen.
So what will that mean to local or regional brands? Because we talk about international brands coming in, yes, but I mean, if there's a domestic market, that can also mean an emergence or re-emergence of local brands, regional brands. Because if I live in a region and I'm familiar with a particular brand, I don't have to have an international brand maybe, or collaborations between that. I mean, in other industries, there were collaborations with international and local companies and whatever. Is that something that you see? Because that kind of leads me to, and if I maybe can throw that in there and give you more time to answer both of them, hospitality is big business, but it's also owned by big business, not necessarily hoteliers. There are business people who think it's a great idea to have a hotel. Many have made a success, but also some that haven't made a success because they simply didn't understand the business well enough and didn't look at advisors and they didn't look at courses that they maybe could do like they would do with you now. So how would you, with your programs, maybe also professionalize that? So really it's kind of the emergence of a professional industry within the country, local brands, all that thrown together, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so that's a whole study.
It is.
Currently. But the first thing I'd like to say is there's been a change, a shift in the understanding of what quality means in terms of being an element to distinguish you from the rest of the competition, all right? So within the market here in Nigeria, we find more and more local owners of hotels have tried to separate themselves from the crowd through the quality of service that they deliver. So that's created a whole new platform of competition. It's not about the infrastructure that I get a beautiful building built and I fill it with, shiny, I was about to say something I shouldn't have said, but like shiny finishes and fixtures. And that used to be the standard. But now with people becoming more discerning, the consumer becoming more discerning, the targets are different, the standards are different, they're raised. The thing has become more of a challenge for people who have not stepped up to the game. I would say in terms of the future, we will have more independence of higher quality, competing for the discerning consumer, creating their own thing.
Right.
The international brands would be the standard box providers for, airline crews, etc. But people are coming in for an experience of the environment that the locals are beginning to understand that that's something that they can capitalize on. All right, and then create a product, create a brand that doesn't need to be international in order to be valid. So I see that changing a lot, especially with the leadership that we're in touch with in the sector. They're very interested in providing bespoke, boutique services to the people that they are trying to attract, the consumers are trying to. And that has created a sense of excitement because you can create a regional brand that provides top-notch service within its own space, right? So it doesn't have to look at an international brand in order to place itself, taking ownership of what they already have. So there's a lot of that happening now. It's even demonstrated even more in the food service sector in Nigeria, where Nigerian cuisine has developed astronomically with fusions, and we have a lot of people coming in and traveling in to taste this new product. So we have a lot to offer, but I think the level of professional development is still some way to go, which is where we come in. Our core focus at the moment at the business school is to try and develop a pipeline of leadership that can take these strategic developments forward and make it benefit the region, first of all, before exporting to the market.
I like that. I like that the line that you used, a pipeline of leadership, because I think that's something which is so important as well in the industry. I would say almost across Africa, with some exceptions that have been at it for a lot longer, maybe, and have a culture of good service industry and whatever you. I mean, when I look certainly at Southern Africa and in South Africa as well, with the history and whatever serving has a connotation of the past and whatever and a lot of people saying I don't want to because my parents had to and whatever where I always served. I mean, that was my job and it's still my job. I mean, now I used to call them guests, now I call them clients, but there's still this delivering of service, which is a great, wonderful thing to do. And I think that is maybe the task that we all have to make sure that youngsters, young people coming out of school realize that an entry into hospitality is a proper profession, and one that can lead you on a pipeline, as you call it, on a good path to a career. You can stall and stop wherever you want to, or you can progress and so forth, and also make sure that there is an own type, an own brand of African hospitality, because I think that it was good to get help from outside, and it still is good probably to a degree, but it's time that we develop something on the continent that we can call our own, and yes, take the help that we can get, fantastic, but make it our own and develop it and get that local pride in as well. I think that's one. I mean, how do you see the attraction being created for school leavers? Because often I certainly find it here in South Africa and Southern Africa, that people saying, no, it's not for me. I want to study, computer science, or want to trade in Bitcoin, or whatever people want to do these days. But a career in hospitality is not what I really want to do. How do you attract people to? How do you make it sexy? How do you make it something which is aspirational?
Something I thought about with some of my colleagues was very interesting about how natural hospitality comes to most Africans, right? It's globally known that, African friendly country will welcome you so warmly. It's a matter of an old woman in the village and has nothing, she'll make sure she puts something together if you come and visit her. That warmth. So what seems to have developed is a disconnect between what I call natural hospitality and commercial hospitality.
Yeah.
So bridging that gap has been, for me, biggest challenge. When you find and you employ people for the first time, when you put them in a branded hotel and start working, the stiffness that comes with that, and it's just everything that comes natural to them. Why is that? So that's an area that needs to be worked on, to understand how can we commercialize what comes natural to us. That it doesn't mean that you're acting outside of your normal way of being. You're just using it in order to make some money and support yourself. So that bridge is where we come in, where we're trying to create hospitality in a way that can become commercially viable and sustainable, and could build up the sector, jobs, etc.
Yeah, because that's really what we need. I mean, we've got, I think as I mentioned at the beginning, that we got so many human resources, we got so many people on the continent that we need to create jobs and make sure that they are in gainful employment, and then, as you said, professionalize it. We're running out of time slowly, but I've got one last question for you. If you had the power, and most women have lots of power, but if you had the power and means to change things in the industry in Nigeria, what would you change? What would it be? The one single thing where you say, if I could change that, I'd be a happy lady.
Leadership. What we have now currently is a lot of transactional skilling, right, taking place. So the people in the sector in Nigeria basically are tanked in terms of where they can reach and develop the sector further. All right, they've gone through the ranks of operations and they've reached a level where they need to break through. And I think that leadership training for them to be able to think beyond what they already know and their experiences. We have a massive outflow of people from the sector into other sectors because they feel, I'm not growing here. So if we can and develop people in such a way that they're able to strategize and create new concepts, new businesses with their I think the sector will grow more. So there's one thing that needs to be changed, is the quality of leadership in this sector. That's what I feel.
Great. I mean, it's something we would like to change, and you're working at it. You are, in the Lagos Business School, so you're definitely putting not that just out a wish and a desire, but you're actually, the shoulders to the wheel, as it were, and getting involved and making it happen. Belinda, I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to coming to see you in Lagos and meeting with you personally, and see how we can maybe work together and where we can maybe in a small way assist making that dream, that desire a reality, and add value to that wherever we possibly can. Dr. Belinda Nwosu, I thank you very much and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Absolutely. Take care, Niels. Thank you for having me.